Welcome back to In His Mind. So, previously I've seen a video done by Sadie on a similar topic, but I think it was more on like relationships and not so much about intimacy. And I'm 4 minutes into this and I'm like, wow, this is already some good stuff. Like, why is this not being talked about? Why? Especially by the church. They want to talk about love, they want to talk about God, and they're missing parts of like intimacy, and yet they're so afraid to touch it because so much of it is sexual. Yeah, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just something that you need to handle appropriately, like firearms. Firearms. The tongue, as people want to talk about in the Bible, like the tongue can set so much aflame and burn so many relationships. Yeah, okay. If this is so important, then why is it not talked about? Plain and simple. The heart, the body, the mind, the soul. Yeah, like there's a lot that the church just does not talk about, and it bothers me. Now, don't get me wrong. I think some of the stuff is actually, how do I put it? Some of the stuff is more personal and should be looked at in your own time. And some of this is, it's important, but the appropriate place is not in front of a crowd, more in front of a couple of individuals. And the church fails there by not making time available for those who actually have genuine questions. Though, that being said, some of these churches lack the younger crowds to ask these questions, to challenge them, to put pressure on them that is needed, the right kind of pressure. Because that's the one thing that youth and kids and the younger generation actually does a very good job of. Appropriate pressure, challenging the elders to step up, to be the kind of elder that they need. Elder, mentor, use whatever word you want. So, yeah, like this is some good stuff here.
One thing that men don't realize is how much it is the miseducation of sex. It's not actually teaching men how to make love. It teaches them how to make hate. They literally just learn sexual violence and they learn degradation, which girls, I'm not saying that they're perfect. Some of them love that, but they love that in the short run. They then want to transition into normal, like lovemaking, if they really love you and care about you.
Yeah, lovemaking. Okay, even the Bible talks a little bit about that with Song of Solomon's, but they use older, less graphic words to talk about it. They do talk more about the chase and the woman and the man going out looking for each other and romance in older ways that we don't ever talk about, just because they use different kind of words. Still the same kind of language, just in a different way, different words. That being said, those on the outside of the church are going to look at this very differently, and they're going to come across this accordingly. I want what I want. I'm going to get what I want. And if they were raised with better values, putting others first, investing in the relationship, things would work out a lot better. Of course, that's not the case. When people get upset or angry and they break the relationship and they leave, traumas and baggages occur. You need a therapist to process some of the stuff that you've gone through. And of course, understanding how your body and your mind reacts is also important, because what you create inside spiritually and mentally will add to some of your burdens and problems. Also on a sexual level as well. Getting abused or used will create issues that you need to fix. And the spiritual side of this is the strongholds will be created because of what you've been through. I'm not necessarily going to touch upon the demonic aspect of this, but be careful of the sexual stuff that is involved, that you bring into your life, that you allow into your life, because they will have an impact on you in some way, shape, or form. This is hard to talk about because it's hard to imagine, it's hard to describe unless you've been through some of this. Unless you've been through some of this stuff yourself. Excuse me, I need to slow down.
And then get back to being like, women that just want to cuddles and this, that, and the other, because that's what we're primarily driven by. A woman that wants, to be thrown around for the rest of her life has probably had some kind of damage, because it's usually they kind of settle down. They want that here and there, but usually they settle down with it. The problem with that is men get used to that way of making love, and they can only access that in either hyper-promiscuous women or in short-term casual relationships. You can't get that in a 20-year marriage all the time. Because
that is one thing the church does well. And when they talk about, go out and romance your spouse, go out and have date nights, keep the love alive, keep the excitement somewhat alive. I think spouses' relationships will succeed or fail on that aspect alone, not just on communication. Like communication and romance/flirting. Two biggest things that I've heard that keep a relationship alive. Some of the biggest killers, though, would be like finances and miscommunication and there's something else. Whatever. I'm no expert on relationships, but what I am noticing is stuff that's not being talked about. Link to the video will be in the description, by the way. Oh my word.
So many times where she's like, no, because she's comfortable enough to say, no, leave my hair alone today. So whereas they can only...
Keep in mind, there's like thousands, if not millions, of men complaining about the lack of love and sex inside of a marriage. This is a real, genuine problem. Of course, I agree with some of the older men who I've talked to. Get to know the person that you are marrying before you jump into bed with them. Of course, I know that there's some spiritual sides to this as well. But this is... I've heard of this whole, like, you gotta test a car before you buy it. For one, people are not cars. We are living beings. We are not products. The world wants to look at humans as if we're products. This is incorrect. It's understandable, but it is incorrect. Like, the thing is, they want to look at people as if they're products, and yet they get the price tag wrong all the time, or they simply want to remove it and say there is no value. Oh my word. Terrible. Like, people are not supposed to have that kind of a value. I mean, God says, like, our value is enough that, like, I am willing to let my son die for you all, to redeem you all. Like, that is priceless. There's no value attached to that. I lost a train of thoughts that I had for the rest of this stuff, but, like, this stuff hits hard, all right? This stuff is needed. It hits hard. I wish more of this would be talked about in church.
That in really short term or really promiscuous women. So they end up being sexually compatible with women who are hyper promiscuous. And when you're meeting a woman who's hyper promiscuous, she's going to be 10 times more promiscuous than you because she's got leverage. A promiscuous woman has far more men available to her than a promiscuous man.
Part of the problem with promiscuous people, men and women, is not just where you are grown up in, but also what values and morals and ethics and all of that you've learned they have learned along the way. Are they going to try to invest in their future, invest in something that is better for them, or are they just going to invest in right here, right now? Like short-term pleasure versus long-term gain, that sort of thing. Frankly, at the end of the day, you're going to have to sleep in the bed that you made. You're going to have to live with the consequences of your actions. And for people like me who haven't really had the interactions, the opportunities to try to get a relationship, and yeah, that sucks, but I feel like I've dodged some bullets along the way, but not having to deal with extra baggage and trauma and issues that so many other people have had to deal with. Like being single and without any sort of attachments or baggage or trauma almost feels like a medal at this point because of everything that I've been able to dodge unintentionally. No kids, no diseases, no debts. The baggage is low. The questions are high, but the baggage is low. Oh my word. Intimacy is one of the most sought after things. And yet it is like harder. It's one of the hardest things to ever get a hold of. To keep a hold of. Excuse me. Not just like to have, but to keep. I said that backwards. Not just to get, but to hold on to and to keep. There we go. That's better.
So they become compatible on this very extrinsic value. They become compatible, and then they end up losing her to that promiscuity, or they just look for short-term mating, because that's the only woman that can maintain that kind of behavior, because she's...
Short-term mating. Sounds like short-term breeding to me. Okay. You want to look up some adult videos, look under breeding. Ugh. Of course, like, here's the problem. People are trying to look for fun and skip right to the fun part rather than just, like, everything that they're skipping to try to get the cream of the crop, the best of the best, the fun, the action, the excitement. They're skipping everything to get there. It's like you don't even know who the other person is. You're just trying to get to the action, to the fun stuff. And this is the big thing that once I recognize one, I just harp on all the time. Porn. It's an illusion, it's a lie, and it's meant to be better than the real thing. In fact, when you get the real thing, it often feels shoddy, feels like, what is this? Because it is outshined by something better. Like, once you get entrapped by the lie that porn shows, it is hard to break free from that, because that's all you'll ever see is, you'll see 10 out of 10. You'll see the best wherever you look. And reality just does not come close to it. With the exception of once you realize you're alone, you want the real thing, you're not able to get the real thing, and you're only stuck with the lies and illusions. Once you start realizing you want real intimacy, a real relationship, everything that comes with it, the baggage, the issues, the problems, it's a lot easier to deal with, like, the lies and the garbage and stuff, The trauma and baggage, that's a whole different category that you kind of need help managing, processing, and replacing.
With you for a couple of months, and then she can do it, and then she leaves. So that it gets them almost into a sociopathic way of making love. It's not actually what we...
Sociopathic way of making love. Anybody want to go down that route?
Find attractive. And the thing is, they think they're learning all these skills and moves, but if you speak to women, they are far more satisfied with men who have not watched porn or been in long-term relationships compared to men who do short-term one-night stands.
Yeah, I'm gonna straight out, like, flat out say no, that's incorrect. But then again, I'm not just saying about myself, I'm saying for other men who I've talked to, alright? If that is true, I'm not seeing that. I'm not hearing about this. If women want this, they need to speak up on this. Make hints. Something that says this is what you're looking for. Otherwise, I'm going to call BS on that.
Men would be like, I slept with 100 girls this year. If you've slept with so many so many women, and you've got loads...
Yes, having a low body count matters in so many different ways. All right? Spiritually speaking, a lot of churches get this right. When you sleep with someone, there is a spiritual connection there. All right? That happens too many times. You're not able to form them correctly anymore, if at all. That means for the men and the women, they're not able to settle down and stay settled down. They're going to struggle in that area for the rest of their life. I don't know what the limit is. Don't ask me. Like, it could be more than 5 people. It could be more than 3 people. I don't know. Like, I can't say. I won't say. Just don't sleep around. You won't have to worry about this, all right?
One-night stands behind your belt. That is an indicator you are not good at sex.
The only bright side is with porn is you don't have to worry about sleeping around. Literally. There's no emotional attachments involved to actual other people, per se. I'm probably wrong with that. Like, the emotional attachment part, I know a thing or two about this, but, like, the whole thing's messy, alright?
And that actually has more long-term relationships is far better, and there's been so much research to support this, because you don't have any repeat customers if you're just doing one-night stands. So you don't learn anything about women, and you don't learn what pleases them, what doesn't.
Part of the problem with learning about women is you have to learn, like, to read between the lines. You have to learn body language, how they operate, not just their words, but, like, If it's anything I've learned outside the Bible that talks about women, is read between the lines and probably keep it simple. The whole professional aspect doesn't really apply well to women. It really does not. So, like, I'm not the best person talking about the nature of women, understanding women. But what I've learned, I do try to pass along to others in specific ways, and I prefer using visuals. Mostly because it's harder to get wrong, it's harder to misinterpret when you actually, like, see something in front of you happening. Anyway, we're still 2 minutes into this, so I'm going to try to hit the 4-minute mark and, end it there. The rest of the video, I encourage you to go check out.
And whereas men that have been in long-term relationships, fewer women, but have been there with them longer, they learn how to read a woman's body. Whereas porn addicts learn how to just reenact moves. And there's a...
Read a body versus reenact moves. That's important.
difference in them. And women are looking for men who read her body rather than somebody who just reads a script that they saw on Pornhub.
Okay, I'm going to take you into nuanced waters. Everything you said makes total sense for maybe the average person, somebody that doesn't have access to self-awareness, whatever. Going back to this idea of obsessed with vagina, experiencing more women for sure made me better at sex, even though some of them were very brief encounters, no repeat customers. Because if
brief encounters are not better. Brief encounters are exactly that. 15 minutes and then one of you is walking out the door. You trying to look for like a relationship, or you trying to invest in something? Don't do those. Like the messy, long entanglements where there's like an actual relationship at the end of the road is what you want to look for. Theoretically speaking, I wouldn't know. The whole thing is I struggle with bitterness when it comes down to relationship for years, because it's like, what is a relationship? What is a good, healthy, decent woman without issues, trauma, baggage, kids from a previous relationship or marriage? Oh, I don't know. I've tried. I guess there's a couple of jokes in there. And one of the James Bond movies, he makes a comment about how he only pursues married women. Sometimes I wonder if there's less issues chasing after married women than single women. Oh my word.
One of them is honest with you about what they like, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, whoa, like I never would have thought of that. That's really interesting.
So little bits of feedback.
Yeah.
But then doesn't that then also suggest then women who've had more experience are going to be better at sex?
Almost certainly.
Yeah, and therefore, how do...
Better at sex is what exactly? What the other person likes, wants, loves? What you like, what you love? Like, how do you define better? Better sex? The church generally should give some thoughts and advice on this, but generally leaving this alone is probably the safest route to go, because you are opening a can of worms by going down this. This is like one of the few things where, like, this is one of the few things where, like, I tentatively want to say I kind of agree with how the church approaches this particular topic, because it is basically a can of worms. However, I have criticisms, valid criticisms.
Men fall in love through sex, so they're going to end up falling in love with women who are...
How do you fall in love? You're getting your needs taken care of, you matter to the other person, you're validated, you're wanted. Sex does a lot. Plus there's intimacy too, you know, the little thing that so many people crave.
more promiscuous.
Something breaks for me with my personality on that train. So again, you're probably
your
speaking
personality,
to averages.
And I'm speaking to younger, I think, generation that grew up.
We're ending on the excerpt that I shared.
That is their preferences, and I haven't experienced loyalty in relationships. But if we are suggesting that more experience leads to better sex, then men always fall in love with the woman that gives them the best sex.
Yeah, I'll just end there. Being careful of who you emotionally attach to and who you fall in love with is going to save your life and save your heart multiple times. I'm not saying, and I am not saying become this kind of person who does not care, who does not have any consideration for other people at all. I will never do that. But I will say that if you remove your heart and remove yourself from a situation so that you no longer feel like you should care, and you put your needs before other people in that sense, take care of yourself before you take care of other people, minus your kids, minus any other responsibilities like your spouse. Anything else like your spouse or other responsibilities, your pets. Let me rephrase that. Yeah, that's good. All right? This stuff is important. How you handle this is important. Just putting your heart out there for anyone to step on and trample and use and abuse? No, don't do that. In fact, that's how many men in today's world actually are. They're walking around bitter, angry, with wounds, and they're not healing. They don't really know how to heal. They know how to have a backbone. They know how to say no, but they don't know how to heal. So they're just walking around wounded, bleeding emotionally, physically, rarely physically, mostly emotionally, all over the place. The church fails in that area, but then again, the men don't really show up. The single, burnt-out men don't really show up to the church anyway, so it's 50-50. Can't put all the blame on the church and can't put all the blame on men. Anyway, video is pretty good. Definitely recommend it. It's an eye-opener. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hit deep. Just give it a shot.